We need to let people stay in their pain. We enable by trying to help them out of their pain too quickly and doing it for them. It's not a manipulation tactic. It's an allowance of them being there, but you have to be fully present in that moment with them to make them feel safe enough to step in. And that can be a really hard moment for everybody because it's uncomfortable all around. It's let them answer it with you, for themselves.
Welcome to the Thought Leader Revolution with Nikki Ballou. Join the revolution. There's never been a better time in history to speak your truth, find your freedom, and make your fortune. Each week, we interview the world's top thought leaders and learn the secrets of how they built a 6 to 7 figure practice. This episode has been brought to you by eCircleacademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou, and boy, do we have an exciting guest lined up for you today. Today's guest is a dear friend of our all-time favorite guest on the show, the one and only Mark Von Musser. She's someone who's worked with him. She's someone who has built a 7-figure business. She is someone with a bit of a polymath Renaissance woman feel to life. I am speaking, of course, of none other than the one, the only, the legendary Kirstin Carey. Welcome to the show, Kirsten.
Thanks, Nikki. That might be my favorite intro ever.
Well, I was shooting for that.
I'm just going to record it and have it run behind me all day long. That was phenomenal.
I'll tell you what, we'll get our team to get you a copy of the whole episode. I mean, when we get the episode done, we'll have some reels that we put out. But if you like, I can get that over to you and you can make your own reels and then grab that and put it in the background and listen to it once a day.
Definitely. Definitely.
So, Kirsten, the folks who listen to this show, in my opinion, are among the great heroes of our society. They are the ones who dare to dream big dreams and make them come alive in the entrepreneurial milieu. And they listen to this show because they want to learn. They want to grow from the amazing expertise, not of me, because I'm here every week, but of my guests. They're here for you, but before they can open themselves up to you, they've got to get to know you. So, Kirsten, tell us your backstory. How'd you get to be the great Kirstin Carey?
Oh, that is a great question. So the shortest version is I started picking up clients in my dorm room in college because I was dating a guy who was an entrepreneurial spirit. And I thought, well, let me just start marketing your companies better. I started doing that and thought, this is super fun. I was getting a degree in communications and business. And I thought, I can't believe people will pay me to do this. This is the fun stuff, right? I didn't have to learn history, no dates. And I started picking up clients before I even graduated. And I came out of the dorm room swinging, so to speak. So I was able to start a company before I realized that I was too young to start a company, So because when I was 18, I knew all the things. And I just kept going because it was fun and nobody was telling me the hours I had to work and nobody was telling me how it had to be done. And I just don't think I'm cut out for that 9 to 5, right? And I'm unemployable, as a lot of entrepreneurs will say, but I'm really good at what I'm really good at. And I was able to help people make more money because of how they said things and how they marketed and how they sat down with a customer for the first time. And this is before the internet. And this is before we were still doing newsletters and old school ways about doing that. And then I got to intern with a woman who had a 7-figure training company, and she was a member of the National Speakers Association. So I got involved with the National Speakers Association at 22 years old. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. And I heard people talking about how you should consult and how you should charge for consulting. And they were talking about numbers that were, you charge $25,000 for a consulting gig. And, at 23 and 25 and 26 years old, I was like, wow, that's a lot of money, but maybe it's not. So I was fortunate to be really smart to get into the vicinity of hearing people talk about normalcy of money and normalcy of charging and what that looked like. So when I started getting in front of bigger clients and I started picking up clients like Verizon and UPS and Aramark, when I started quoting numbers, I was quoting numbers from a place of surety and confidence. And I remember at one time, because I also looked younger than I was, which did not work in my favor at that time. And I had one of the guys, I sat down and I was quoting him a number that he hadn't heard a number that high from a consultant before. And I gave him the number and he said, "How old are you?" And I don't know where this came from, but I said, "How old do you need me to be for you to think that what I just quoted you was the right number for you?" And he stopped and he looked at me and he threw me out of his office. He said, "Get out. I'll know who you think you are, but get out." And I was like, okay. So I left. He called me 15 minutes later. I was still driving home on my old little flip phone. And he hired me and he said, "No one's ever responded to me like that. So you must know what you're doing." And I thought, or not. Great. So he was one of my very first bigger clients. So I really got to hang around people who were much older than me, who had much more experience than me, who I listened to. And I remember going to a woman that's still a friend of mine from the National Speakers Association. And I got a speaking gig opportunity with Verizon. And I said to her, "I don't know how to charge them. I don't know what to charge." And she said, "Well, how much have you ever been charged to speak before?" And I think at the time, and again, this was so many years ago, it was like $750 whole to speak on a platform. And she said, "Well, it's more than that." And I said, "Okay." And she said, it's $10,000. And I said, "Oh my God, $10,000. She said, "Well, it's 5,000. And I said, 5,000? And she said, "Okay, maybe 2,500. And I said, 2,495. And she said, "That's how much you charge." And I said, "How do you know?" And she said, "It was the first number you said without laughing, or without questioning me, or without hesitation." And that changed the dynamic for me from that point forward on worth and belief. And so I continued to do that. And I got to speak on really large stages with really well-known people. And I got to share the platform. And I knew I belonged there. Now, of course, looking back, I'm twice that age now. I thought, who the heck did I think I was? But I had brilliant mentors, and I normalized what it was like to be in that world. But then in my 30s, I started getting really sick. And I was traveling a ton, and I didn't understand why I was so tired. And I finally got a diagnosis for celiac disease, which is an autoimmune condition, and then later Hashimoto's, which is thyroid autoimmune. And I thought, I'm too young to feel this old. And I was gaining a ton of weight, and my skin was a mess, and I didn't feel good ever. And I was just a train wreck. So I kept going back to other doctors. They're supposed to be specialists. And I figured once I got a diagnosis, I would be healed, right? They would give me whatever I needed and it would be better. And their answers were pretty much like, "Take this pill, you're going to feel like this forever." And I'm like, that seems wrong. So I went back to school for nutrition and health and wellness and trauma healing. And I have tons of certifications and all those things, but I learned how to reverse out both autoimmune conditions, how to not only get rid of the side effects or the symptoms, I also learned how to get to the root of the problem. My now husband also went back to school. So we built an entire company on health and wellness and finding root cause issues. And I built that to a 7-figure company. And actually, that's where I got the opportunity to meet Mark for the first time, is I got to learn underneath him as I was going online in 2017 with an online wellness program, which was really, nobody was really doing that at the time. And I still had brick and mortar. I had a restaurant and a wellness center that we built all of that on top of. So then I really had to learn sales in a different way, because when somebody comes to you who is in a space of illness and they are literally telling you on a call, "I'm trying not to die this week," that's a whole different conversation in a sales process, right? So you're coming from this place of I'm trying to get away from something rather than I want to move towards something. It's a different energy. So I learned a lot about sales at that point. And I built that business. And then we closed the brick and mortar, thank God, 10 months before COVID hit. So I was able to get out of the restaurant business and out of brick and mortar. The universe was definitely working in my favor. And I went full hog on, that Facebook ads, build in the sales calls, sell from that platform into a high ticket program. And I did that for years and years. But after 15 years of that, I decided I wanted to get back into full-time help with other businesses, because I think I can help more people, or I know I can help more people build better from a place of building a business in a stable way with net profits and not just burning out, because that's where most of my clients were. They were entrepreneurial spirit, high performing people who are burned out. And that's where autoimmune comes in. That's where illness comes in. That's where fatigue comes in a different way. So it's the same audience to me. I'm just now in a space of selling back into the business world.
Well, that's a heck of a story. Back in 2001, I was in IT security, and we were partnered with Verizon. We were a tiny company, and Verizon had just come into existence, right? From a whole bunch of kind of baby bells amalgamating together. And I was traveling to New York a lot, in New Jersey a lot, to meet with some key people there. So that's just...
We absolutely had to have crossed paths because I was in Philadelphia at the time, and I was coming together. And one of my biggest things that they would hire me to come in and do is work with their executives to be better at the sales and persuasion from the platform to lead better as they were coming together in those spaces and bringing all these different pieces together.
We very well may have. I've got a... God, these things have been faded by the sunlight. But this is the company I was with. I don't know if you can see me, the fellow with the beard and the mustache in the middle. That's me. Yeah, that's me. So, God, small world, small time. So it's interesting, last year I had my best year ever. We brought in a lot of money. We helped a lot of people, and we started off this year hitting it really hard. But kind of February rolls around, and I start to feel completely burned out, like completely. I didn't want to do calls with people anymore. I was doing them. I was running my business, all that stuff. But in early March, I called a bunch of my coaches, including Mark, and I said, I'm burnt out. I don't know, maybe having a nervous breakdown. I don't know. I feel like Abe Lincoln back when he was in his early 30s, late 30s, early 40s. He had a nervous breakdown. And so I said, you know what, I got to do some self-care. I haven't taken a vacation in 3 years. So I started taking vacations. I took 8 days off in March, and then I went to see Mark in Palm Springs, because he's got a place in Palm Springs. We hung out there for a week. That was awesome. That helped. And I've been going to see energy workers.
Good.
All that's been helpful. And I believe I need probably another 4 weeks off minimum this year, maybe even 6. Don't know if I can do it all at once, but I'm going to make it happen. And God bless me. I hear you when you say that. That was rough.
The universe is not silent when you've gone too far. Your body, it's whispering the whole time. And if you ignore those whispers, it'll 2x4 you to the back of the head.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. It will. God gives you your messages gently at first, and then with increasing urgency and stridency and pain. So,
and so that's why, pain is resistance. Pain is our body telling us, our mind, our spirit telling us, we're pushed too far. And we, in this country especially, we celebrate, North America. So, Canada is in a similar space. In the United States, we do the same thing where we celebrate how exhausted we are. That's absurd.
It's nuts. It's absolutely absurd. It's absolutely absurd. 100%. So, when I'm hearing you talk about this, I go, yeah, I can totally get this. So in a sense, you're still in the wellness business, but you're
it's just flipped into business. Exactly.
You're just charging for it differently, but you're still in the wellness business. So tell me a little bit about how you came to understand who your ideal client was in this space.
So, everything is a learning experience and a leaping off point from where you were before. The reason I started realizing who my real ideal client was, they were actually my ideal client with years ago when I started, but I didn't identify them this way. It was the person who pushed too far. A lot of them were former athletes. Like I was a gymnast for many, many years of my life from early on. They learned how to push past where their limits said, hey, this is probably too far. And they stopped learning how to acknowledge themselves. And there was usually some sort of transactional need at a root level to be noticed. we all want to be seen, heard, and understood, right? And those of us that get into high level businesses like this, sometimes we do it from a level of we need the transaction to receive the love. We learned that really early on, that if we didn't get the win, whatever that win looked like, we didn't receive the love or the care or the protection that we needed as children. And then we turned it into business. And then that's why a lot of us get burned out, or we feel we've reached the pinnacle of what we want, which is the house, the cars, the family, the whatever. And we feel empty because we kept thinking there was something else that we were also supposed to receive. And until we learn how to be in that space of gratitude, we don't know. The money doesn't mean anything. The house doesn't mean anything. The car doesn't mean anything. So we have to learn that level of balance. And my clients that were coming at me for health and wellness, a lot of them were high achievers who then felt empty or broken or burned out by the achievements because they weren't receiving that level of love, however you define that, from the tangibles. So I'm absolutely saying I 100% love the money. The money is great, right? However, it doesn't give us the thing. So when we look at love and gratitude from a different perspective of it filling us up, but actually paying us, that energy exchange is different. The money isn't what we really want. The car, the house, the whatever isn't what we want. But that's what society tells us we're supposed to use to measure it. When you start to learn how to get your own measurement in there and you recognize your body's desperate for that, then you see where the beauty of the burnout comes in. So my clients are still those people, whether they're coming at me for how do I heal this autoimmune condition or how do I sell more effectively for me and stay in alignment with that without burning out. It's still that high achiever. But how do you find the balance for the high achiever where they still feel motivated and excited about what they're doing, but they have a different measure of success, but they still reach a level of success?
You know, I really like what you're saying, and there is a clarity to the way you're articulating this that I find quite. Tell me, when you find these people and they've been pushing too far and they've been wanting to be seen, heard, understood, and noticed, and all they've done is made them feel empty and broken inside, what do you tell them? How do you get them out of there?
A lot of times I just sit and allow them to be in that space. I don't try and make it better for them in that moment. They need to feel that. And that's where I think a lot of times in business and in sales, we're always trying to make it better for them in the moment and make it okay. I allow people to stay in that space. There's a difference between holding space for someone and trying to make it better for them, because you're enabling them if you're always trying to make it better for them. The pain actually is the answer, is the way through sometimes. It is the information. So so when I train people, there's a close method that I created called the Doctor Strange close. So if you've ever watched Marvel Comics and you've seen Doctor Strange, he's my favorite guy. He's the multiverse guy. So a lot of times people will be in the pain. And so a lot of salespeople will say, well, here's my solution to get you out of the pain. And I'm like, no, I want them to be in the pain, feel the pain, but feel safe enough to show me the pain. Right? So I'll say to them, okay, look, are you familiar with Doctor Strange? He's the multiverse guy. Essentially, in a nutshell, is he shows you that time is happening simultaneously. All the timelines that you could have been are all happening at the same time. So after they've told me all the things that they want the 50,000K month, they want the $1 million sale, they want whatever their goals are. They also want more time off. They want to feel better, whatever the salute thing is they say they want. I say to them, there's a version of you who has all of those things. So let's open up the portal and step over to that version of you. Are you okay with that? And usually they say yes. And I say, okay, if we can step onto that other timeline, that version of you has everything you say you wanted, but she also had to go through something to get to that, which you are also resisting. So if she were to speak to you, what would she tell you right now in this moment? And then I say nothing. And that is so hard because I want them to not feel the pain, because I know I have a solution that's going to help them out of pain, but I just sit with it. The last woman I did this with, she sat and breathed, and you could physically see her adopting into that other version of her who had the things. And then you could see her feeling the pain of having to get there, of letting go of old beliefs. And all of a sudden she got really quiet. I allowed her to be in that space. And she says, trust. And I said, trust who? And then she sat there for like 30 seconds. And, in sales time, that's forever. And she said, me. And then we got to the core of why she hadn't gotten where she wanted to go before, because she realized she was looking outside of herself for the answer. So then she came back to, oh my God, it's me. And I said, well, what do you need to be able to get there? And then she said nothing for like another minute. We just sat there in silence. And then she started to cry and she said, it's because I haven't trusted myself to step into a full program like the one you're offering. And I said, okay, so what support can I give you to help you feel that that's the right thing for you right now? And then she said, do you take credit cards? But the idea of, she was basically talking to herself, but I had to open up the space to make it safe for her to do that was important. But I had to let her stay in the pain for that period of time. We need to let people stay in their pain. We enable by trying to help them out of their pain too quickly and doing it for them. So when you do, the Dr. Strange's clothes, it's not a manipulation tactic. It's an allowance of them being there, but you have to be fully present in that moment with them to make them feel safe enough to step in. And that can be a really hard moment for everybody because it's uncomfortable all around. I mean, that was a really uncomfortable couple of minutes. And if she had come to the conclusion that that wasn't her thing and she wasn't going to go that direction, we could celebrate that too. Yeah. So it's let them answer it with you, for themselves.
I like this. This is pretty brilliant. Mark is the one who taught me how to enroll people powerfully. Mm-hmm. And he always says, don't try to solve a person's pain on the phone call. He always told that to me. Never try to solve their pain in the phone call. This Dr. Strange close, as you've put it, almost like takes that to another level. Mm-hmm. It takes that base that Mark talks about, and it's not just that you don't solve the pain for them, you actually walk in the pain with them.
Yes, because the pain is there for them.
Yeah,
exactly. Taking it away from them actually hurts them more because it either gives them the illusion that they should keep shutting it down and compartmentalizing it and pushing it away. And pain needs to go somewhere. So if you squash it, it literally shows up in a physical response. It'll show up in actual physical pain, or it'll show up as an autoimmune condition, or it'll show up as anxiety or depression, sleeplessness, hair loss. It'll show up in all sorts of ways. Cancer, literal cancer. So when we take that away, we take that message away, we allow the avoidance. Our job as salespeople is to help them be in the space that's teaching them the thing that they need, and then helping them get clarity around the path that they will choose on their own to go with your support. So, I mean, I love that you brought the word clarity up earlier. That's the program that I work people through is called the Clarity Enrollment Method, because it's clarity for you, it's clarity for them. It's being able to ask hard questions and not being not being trickery about it. But I'm a really good coach, and I realize that really good coaching is allowing people to feel the space that they're in, because we all make decisions from an emotional space, whether we like it or not. We use logic to justify it. Yep. We're really truly making all of our decisions from our emotional safety spaces. So if you can allow people to be there in a safe way with no judgment and no attachment to their outcome of where they end up on the end of the call, people will close.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. It's the most beautiful thing in the world when you let somebody get to the space of where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we have so few opportunities to truly be in that space, because a lot of times the people we go to for help, they don't like seeing us in pain. And I don't like seeing anybody in pain, but I also know that the answer is right on the other side of it. So it's beautiful when they can get to a space where they can show that.
Yeah.
Because, that's the way through.
Yeah, the only way out is through. And on a phone call, all you can give someone is a Band-Aid anyways. There's no way you're going to solve their pain in a single call. You're not.
And it's unfair for us to make them think that, because then they'll go off and think they can fix it on their own, which if they had been able to do that, they would have done it.
They would have done it. If you could have done it on your own, you would have done it before this call.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're there for a reason. So you have to be able to be strong enough to hold that space for them. And if the answer that they come to is a no, and it's a straight no, and you see it and they see it, let's celebrate that no. and let's move you along so we can open up the space for the ones who are ready right now. Because some of them are not ready. They're just not. And that's okay too.
It's true. It's true. It's true. It's true. It's true. I like it. Great method. Great conversation that we're having here about how to help people walk through their pain to the point where they realize that their pain holds the answer to solving their pain.
Yeah.
It's a little counterintuitive, but it's true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we see that everything is there for us, the question is, okay, cool. If it's there for me, what am I resisting? What am I missing? What am I not asking? How am I not curious in this moment enough? Because we like to categorize stuff, right? Something happened to me, it's good. Something happened to me, it's bad. I'm like, why is it either? How about it's both? And so then it starts getting a little esoteric in that moment. But then people are like, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, are you curious? Because, our outside represents wherever we're calling in on our inside, right? So if something on your outside you don't like what you're seeing, the question is, how is it there for me? How have I called this moment in to learn and grow from? And how can I do something with this? It's not just the world's out to get you. What can we do with that information?
It's brilliant that you say this, but I had Brian Tracy on my podcast a few weeks
I was on a board with Brian Tracy I was on the board of the National Speakers Association at the national level with Brian. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He is.
There's a thing that he said to me, and he really encouraged me to buy his book Goals. I've read a lot of his books, and I have a lot of his books, but he said, buy the latest copy of my book Goals. He just pushed me on the interview.
Of course he did.
So I did. I bought it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of halfway through it. And I've adopted something that he talked about in the book. And it's a mantra that I've adopted, that everything happens for me, not to me. Adversity is there to instruct, not obstruct. And to me, this is super important for all of us to understand. And the sooner we understand it, the more we'll have life flow rather than grind us into dust. So I think this is beautiful. So Kirstin Carey, I've really enjoyed having you on the show. How do people get a hold of you?
That's a great question. They can go right to my website. It's evolveminded.com. I have, of course, a free resource for them. Of course, there's an energy exchange, their email address, and I will send it to them. But the 7 biggest sales mistakes that are costing high ticket clients and how to fix them. And really look at what's happening now. I mean, and I just wrote this one. I just created this because I'm seeing a very different world of business and sales than we even saw 6 months ago. So this one is what I'm seeing with our clients right now.
No, it's a good idea. I like to read the report myself. I'm always interested in learning from people who are masters at what they do, especially in the arena of sales. We'll make sure we put that up in the show notes. We end off each episode by asking you, our guest expert, what are your top 3 expert action steps? These are your 3 best pieces of advice in bullet point form to help my listener take their sales, their business, nay, their life to the next level. What say you?
The first thing is to get curious. Always get curious. If you can ask the question of, I wonder why, that's an amazing space to be in. Hang out with some 2 and 3-year-olds and you'll learn about curiosity quickly. The second thing is to get clarity. Am I clear on what's going on? So it brings that curiosity to another space. And number 3, I guess I'm in the form of C's today, is to get coaching. Find someone outside of you who knows more than you do and ask them for feedback. And just be open to it. Because sometimes it's not going to resonate with you, and that's fine. Sometimes it is. But if it doesn't resonate with you, ask yourself, where's my resistance in that?
I like them.
Because you don't have to receive it, but...
Listener, Kirstin Carey is the real deal. Check out her website, evolveminded.com. Check out her freebie, The 7 Biggest Sales Mistakes Clients Make. I think it's worth a read. And if you enjoyed this episode, give it a like, give it a rating, give it a review. And if there's someone you know who needed to hear it, share the episode with them, because that's how you help us grow the show. And that's the energy exchange that I ask of you. I give you the best guests I can possibly get with the best information that'll help you, an hour or half an hour of free coaching from true thought leaders. And what you do is you give me a like, you give me a rating, you give me a review. It's a good energy exchange. I like it. And Kirsten, I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for coming on
Me
the show.
too. Yeah, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And that wraps up another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. To find out more about today's amazing guest, the one and only Kirstin Carey, go to the show notes at thethoughtleaderrevolution.com or wherever you happen to listen to this episode, be it iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube, Rumble, or what have you. Until next time, goodbye.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.